So to buy, we have to receive an invoice from our vendor, and currently we don't have any invoices. Let's create an invoice. So it's an operational thing. We create an invoice for our supplier Ajay laptops. Now you can see that the bank account address, everything has been already populated. We do not specify any contact for this vendor, otherwise we would have a contact as well. Now you can see our address is in Mumbai and the vendor is in Delhi, which makes this transaction an interstate transaction. Hence, region class is automatically set to interstate. And since we have the GSTIN of this vendor, we can claim input tax credit on the taxes that we're going to pay on this invoice. So let's create an invoice. Let's say Ajay Laptops has given us an invoice AL001. Now invoice date is, let's say, today. Due date is as per our terms of business, which is 60 days, which we set up when we set up our business partner. So due date is automatically calculated to that day. And this is how we create a draft invoice. Now I can add a line here. So let's say I bought 10 laptops from Ajay Laptops. So in items I say Dell laptops, quantity 10. Now it automatically calculated that this tax code is applied, IGST tax code, and rate is 28%, and this is the tax amount, and this is the amount excluding taxes. So if I save this, we have one line created. If I want to make changes or delete this line, obviously I can do that from here. Let's say we also buy this time some additional cables from them, which is not a standard item, but this time it's a one-off thing, so we don't need to create an item for this. So let's say unit price for cable is 100. Per meter, and let's say the quantity is, let's say, 15 meters. And where we're going to allocate it to is let's allocate it to cost of goods sold. So obviously this item is not configured, so we need to specify what tax applies on this. We can apply IGST, and since we can claim IGST on input tax credit, and let's say it is also 28%, This is the total amount, and this is the tax on cables. So we have two items, Dell laptops and some cables, and this is our total. So we have some taxes, IGST taxes, which we have to pay. This is the total amount excluding the taxes, and this is the total invoice amount that we have to pay. Now I have option to void this invoice if I did any mistake, or if we are no longer doing this deal with the vendor, or I can post this invoice. So I can select a date when I want to post this invoice. Let's say I received this invoice yesterday. I can change it to yesterday, and invoice is posted. If there was a correction in this invoice, I can issue a debit note here. We can say it was correction in invoice, and let's call it AL001A. So AL0001 was the original invoice. Let's say 0001A is a correction. Now this creates a debit note. Now debit note has by default all the items that we purchased. If we post it as is, the whole invoice will be cancelled. But let's say we want to just reduce the quantity from 10 to 8. So I can if I want to keep only 8 laptops, I want to return 2, I'm going to change it to 2 here. Save. And let's say I'm not returning the cables. The correction was only in the laptops. So I can just press this button and it zeroes the quantity of cables. So debit note will have exactly the same number of lines that the original invoice had, and we basically specify what quantity we are returning. So this is the subtotal, and these are the taxes that are to be taxed on this amount, and this is the total of debit note in this case. So this is a debit note, and currently in draft, correction on invoice, and this is a link to the original invoice. Debit note number is 2, original invoice is 1. And let's say I post it on today. Today we did this correction. So we have created one vendor invoice where we purchased some laptops and cable, and we have created a debit note where we return 2 of those laptops. You can see that the net payables for the posted documents is this amount, which is basically the total invoice amounts minus the amount on the debit note. If I have a lot of invoices and I want to export them in CSV format, which can be opened in Excel, I can do that from here. Let's create an invoice where we purchase some mobile phones from our other vendor. So it's an operational invoice. Now you can see that the supplier's state is Maharashtra, my state is Maharashtra, so region class is state. I need to specify Amir's invoice AM0001, and I've created an invoice here. So let's say I'm buying Nokia mobiles. Let's say I buy them for 1,000 rupees per piece, and I buy 40 of them. I need to specify where I allocate this to. I can allocate it to the same account where we do merchandise inventory, which we buy and sell without any modification. And since this is not a cataloged item, I have to select it. If you had this catalog, then you don't have to select what taxes are applicable on this. So since this is a state, it will have CGST with tax credit. Let's say the rate is 18%. Other component is going to be SGST with tax credit. So actually, if the tax rate is 18, it is going to be split 9 into CGST and SGST. So if I save this line, the taxes are updated. This is the subtotal and this is the invoice total. And I can post this invoice. Invoice is posted. Going back to my invoices, I have a list now, and I can search if I want to see only Amir's invoices. I can search AMI. It will show me only the Amir's invoices and the net payables applicable to Amir. If I want to see the invoices from Ajay, I can see net payables on Ajay's invoices. If I remove all the filters, I see total net payables that I have to pay.